sometimes I'm wondering if I need to even apply that much effort into another game other than the From Software games. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I understand what you mean, especially if
Yeah,
you don't have a lot of time. I can
yeah.
understand that.
You know, I'm constantly jumping all over the place, and I don't put as much. I don't know. It depends on what mood I'm in. Maybe it's just when I'm not as down, you know, emotionally. I guess I don't know. I guess right now I'm kind of feeling really good because I'm going to games like Red Dead Redemption 2 and trying to make it more difficult so I can enjoy it more because I finished Red Dead. It's kind of similar to Horizon Zero Dawn where I was trying to like it and I could not like it, and I went back to it and I forgot that there are challenges added to each mission. So I'm like, I wonder if I would enjoy it more if I actually had things, very specific things I had to do during the mission. I wonder if I would like the game more.
And that ended up working out for you then?
I let's see. I haven't tried on Red Dead Redemption 2 yet. I was fixing to today, but I just couldn't get around to it. But I did try it on Grand Theft Auto 5, and I did appreciate the mission design significantly more. Like the very first design where you're trying to beat, where you're playing as Franklin and you're trying to beat his friend in a race. That design is very questionable, by the way, where you had to beat him in the parking lot, because at first you're following him around and he's rubber banding, and then they're expecting you to eventually beat him. So I thought that was kind of weird, but I think it's maybe the second one I'm thinking about the most, where you have a shootout, and I'm having to pay attention to the accuracy of my shooting, and let's see. Paying attention to things going on in the mission itself, like shooting the gas line leading up to the vehicle to cause an explosion. Also, the time limit that you have, where you have to wrap it up obviously within the time limit. So, at the very end of the shootout, a guy takes off on a moped, and I found out that you can just simply shoot him before he just takes off, so you don't even have to chase him down. And I just remember it so well. I'm like, man, if I didn't do those challenges, I would have totally forgotten about the mission itself, like I did when I played it back in 2013. I don't remember that mission at all, but now that I applied those challenges that the game implemented, I remember it so much more now.
Oh, that's interesting. It definitely, so it sticks out with you more because
Yeah.
you had to do so much more. You were more involved.
Yeah, and that's one thing people don't seem to get about why difficulty is so important in video games. It's all about memorization and long-term memory of the game. Because a lot of people, they remember the game and having fun with it, but they don't really remember very specific things because the game's not designed to be difficult enough for it to stick with you. And that's why we got games like Battletoads and Lion King, for Super Nintendo, still being remembered because of how brutal they were in design. I don't necessarily agree with how they were difficult, because a lot of games were designed to be, unreasonably punishing because of the rental sales, because they made these games where you couldn't beat them and you can continuously gain, rental, sales from it.
It was the arcade era.
Yeah.
You'll use one more quarter to try to beat it the next time.
Mm-hmm. And that's why the From Software games, introducing Demon Souls was just so important to me, because here's a game that's obviously made to be difficult, but in a very fair and reasonable way, and you can still remember it. And I just want more games to apply that. And then you got people saying, "Oh, we'll just switch to hard mode." I'm like, the problem with that is the game's not designed around that difficulty. When you press
artificial.
Oh yeah, when you press new game, what difficulty is highlighted first?
Normal mode.
Yep, normal mode. And that's the mode I'm going to start picking from now on. I used to be, very very egotistical about and say, "Oh, I'm going to pick hard mode because, I played From Software games and it should be the exact same thing."
No.
And
and you know what?
I learned the hard way where I'm like, "Oh, sorry."
No, go ahead.
I learned the hard way, no pun intended, that it does not work that way. The game's not going to play out the way you think the way the From Software games work, because the game the enemies become bullet sponges. It's just endurance based difficulty is basically what it turns it into, like God of War. All the God of War games.
was about to mention God of War. That's exactly what I was going to say. I made the mistake of starting out God of War, the newer one, the newest one, God of War 2018. I made the mistake of playing that game on hard mode on my first playthrough. And mistake it was. That was not a fun, first like 30 hours that I played that game was not fun because they just every enemy was just taking so long to kill.
Hmm.
I got to the point where and I streamed the whole thing. I streamed the whole playthrough.
Really? Hmm.
Yeah, this was back on YouTube. I still have the VODs. They're on my YouTube channel, but it's I did not have fun with that game on hard mode. But, as you get towards the end game, you start actually leveling up your stuff. Everything becomes balanced again. But playing that game from the beginning on hard mode, no, don't do it. It's not a good idea because it's not balanced for that. It's just you got to be a masochist to do it. It's just
Yeah,
it wasn't that much fun.
I actually finished the game on give me a challenge mode on my first playthrough, and I just, yeah, it was tough, but I also really just didn't enjoy it that much because of just how much it dragged on, and I was just so dedicated to playing it because it was a very fun cinematic experience, and it was just enough for me to just push through. But
I
there was
know
just a
that's
lot of
exactly
scenarios where I'm
how
like, oh, do what?
No, no, I was gonna say that's exactly how I ended up, beating it too, or why I ended up continuing. It's
Hmm.
because it was good enough. The story was good enough. The next area that you had to explore and the challenges that you had to fight was just good enough that it pushed me through to actually beat the game. But other than that, I probably will not do that with the next game. I'll just play it on normal mode.
And it kind of is it's kind of silly when you have people say, "Oh, well, God of War on give me God of War is harder than Dark Souls." I'm like, yeah, but you're missing the whole point of Dark Souls design by saying that.
Yeah, yeah. A
You
lot of
know,
people don't understand the difficulty of a Souls game,
and
and
oh, sorry.
yeah, no, no, it's challenging, but at the same time, it's a very fair challenge. Every Souls game can be defeated at level one. You don't have to take any damage if you learn the patterns and know how to dodge the enemies, and nothing feels like, well, except for gods can do it, but nothing feels like it's you know, not balanced to the point where you're going to have to grind and level up so you can overcome the challenge.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's that option. You can do that. But at the same time, the game is balanced in a way where, your knowledge of what you're doing in the fight and what how you're playing the game, your knowledge is much more important than your stats.
Hmm.
And a lot of people don't seem to understand that when it comes to difficulty.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll ask people online, and when I say online, I'm talking about Facebook, Reddit, where a lot of these, where a lot of silliness, happens, and you see a lot of weird opinions. And I'll ask people simply whenever they have a post. You'll see posts pretty much maybe several times a day. You'll see a post saying which game is harder, which is it, Elden Ring, Bloodborne, and I'll post a simple question saying based on what. They're like difficulty in the game. I'm like, yeah, but what is that difficulty based on? They're like,
Right.
oh, well, when you play the game, when a boss kills you, and I'm like, yeah, but why? They just can't seem to answer it for some reason.
Yeah. Now, it's difficult for people to understand the concept of a challenge
Yeah,
when,
I mean, I'm
they haven't had that type of experience,
and,
especially with a Souls game.
and I'm not calling people stupid by any means. I'm just saying that a lot of people just don't really grasp the design itself because I don't know why. I don't know. It's because they just play. I don't know if they maybe look up OP builds when they first play a game, or maybe they forgot why the design is so important in the games. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I no, I see what you mean. Like, a lot of people, especially if they don't have experience playing certain games that are, balanced, when it comes to
Yeah.
difficulty, if they don't have that experience and the only thing that they know is picking from a menu, easy, normal,
Mm-hmm.
hard, then they're not gonna get it. And I think at the end of the day, I guess you can't really fault them for that. People are just, yeah. At the end of the day, they're some of their the sum of their experiences. So.